Oh, so hello YouTube family. So yesterday around 6 to 6:30 p.m. in the evening, to be more appropriate, the date was 11th of April 2025, a massive deadly storm struck major parts of Delhi NCR. Yes, as we all know that people were battling from constant rising temperatures day by day, intense heat and those heat waves, etc. And everybody was praying to God that please shower us some amount of rain and please provide us some kind of relief. And the God heard them, but I think there is some kind of misunderstanding. Instead of heavy rain, it led to a very heavy and massive storm. Yes. So yesterday, when the storm actually came, I today only saw that one of the person reported that when he was residing in his building at the 20th floor, it seems like during the storm, the building is shaking, his floor is shaking, and he also mentioned that it felt like a 20-minute earthquake. Exactly, means massive storm and earthquake seems to be two different parameters. But how that particular man quoted this statement? Let's go in the depth of that. Before that, watch this particular video to have a look of that. So I hope you have watched this particular video. So in the video, you can see clearly that how badly that storm struck Delhi. It is completely lost in dust, and everywhere you can see that dusty appearance. The buildings were covered in complete dust. So what actually happened? We will discuss it. But before, let me tell you that while designing building, we consider certain kind of loads. Like we consider the dead load, that is the self weight of the building itself. Live load, that is basically the temporary load that is on the building floors itself, like the persons who are residing, the furnitures and etc. Next, we basically consider the snow and the water load. We also consider the seismic load, and one of the most important load that sometimes buildings were not designed by considering. This is basically the wind load, and here comes the twist here. So uh, as a common practice, usually in earlier time building were designed mostly for the dead and the live loads. Then the advancements took place, and people started designing the buildings for the seismic or the earthquake loads as well, by providing a shear walls, or we can say base isolators. Wind load is also paid attention, and designing is done using StatPro and all. But what happens when we don't consider the wind load factor and design the building without implementing the wind load factor? So wind load is responsible for causing the lateral sway of the building. Like you can see this, say this is our building. For instance, assume that this is our building, and if this is the wind load, so if the wind is basically blowing with a very high velocity, around 84 kilometers per hour, it may cause the building to sway like this, like this, like this, like this. And this is what actually happened with that particular man who is residing on the 20th floor of the building. So to go into little bit depth, let me tell you that the wind velocity basically increases with the increase in the height of the building. जो वेदर डेटा में या फिर जो भी आप देखते हो ना, आपके फोन में गूगल या क्रोम के साइड बार्स में से दिखाता है कि यार टेम्परेचर आज का ये रहा, ह्यूमिडिटी इज दिस, AQI इंडेक्स इज दिस, द विंड वेलोसिटी इज दिस. सो जो विंड वेलोसिटी दे रखी रहती है, जो भी दे रखी है, इज इट आइदर इट इज 25 किलोमीटर्स पर आवर और इट इज 20 kilometers per hour, or even more than that. That is wind velocity. But have you ever wondered कि wind velocity तो height के साथ vary करेगी, तो at what height that particular velocity is basically being given in that particular meteorological report. So let me tell you that particular velocity is usually given at a height of 10 meters above the ground level. Say if this is the ground level, and if we go 10 meter up above the ground level, so at this particular location the wind velocity is actually being given. But sometimes they also report it as 2 meter above the ground level. For that particular purpose, what they do now, they basically take 50 to 70% of that velocity at the 10 meter level. So we will get the velocity at the 2 meter above the ground level. So you can see on the screen itself, there we can see that there is an expression written as V2 is equal to V1 H2 divided by H1 raised to power alpha. So this is the wind velocity equation. You can see that velocity is directly proportional to height. मतलब अगर height increase करेगी तो velocity भी increase करेगी. This is one of the reason that the wind towers, which you can see on plain areas for the installation of for the purpose of generation of the electrical energy. The wind towers are basically, kept very high, because if the height is more, even at a low velocity at a ground level, अगर ground level पे velocity बहुत कम भी होगी ना, wind velocity अगर 10 meters या 2 meters पे, तो if the height of the wind tower will be more, then the wind tower की अगर height बहुत ज़्यादा होगी ना, तो वो इम्पैक्ट काफ़ी ज़्यादा देखने को मिलेगा. मतलब से अगर 2 मीटर पे हाइट सिर्फ 2 मीटर्स पर सेकेंड है, सो 10 मीटर पे वो और ज़्यादा होगी, 20 पे और ज़्यादा होगी. दिस इज़ वन ऑफ द रीज़न दैट द विंड टावर्स आर बेसिकली केप्ट वेरी हाई. जो विंड टर्बाइंस होते हैं बहुत हाई रखे जाते हैं, उनकी हाइट काफ़ी ज़्यादा रखी जाती है कि इवन अगर विंड बहुत बहुत लो ब्लो कर रहा है, इफ़ इट इज़ अ काइंड ऑफ स्मूथ ब्रीज ओनली, देन ऑल्सो दे कैन गेट सम अमाउंट ऑफ वेलोसिटी फॉर रोटेटिंग दी, you can say that wind blade. So जो wind का effect होता है, that is also called as a wind shear. So the change in the velocity of the wind with respect to height, increasing height, is referred to as the wind gradient or wind velocity gradient. So what actually happens is this alpha basically accounts for that shear component itself, and normally for smooth surfaces we take it as 1/7. Okay, so or close to 0.14. It varies depending upon the surface conditions, the roughness, etc. So this wind velocity basically increases with the increasing height because of the reduced friction and reduced turbulence. So there in that particular case same thing happened. Generally क्योंकि my background is civil, so let me tell you, like if we are having a building na, so average height of a floor of a building is roughly 3.4 to 3.5 meters. Okay, so if we talk about a 20th floor building, so if the height of one floor is 3.5 meters, so height of 20 floors will be how much? It will be roughly 3.5 into, you can say, into 21. So if I calculate for 20th floor of the building, that particular height will be 3.5 into 21. It's roughly 73.5. 21 because अगर ये हमारा ground floor है और ये हमारा first floor है, so the height will be 3.5. And if you come on the first floor, the height will be 3.5 into 2. मतलब 1 के लिए, first floor के लिए height में 3.5 into 2. In generalize, if it is a nth floor, height will be 3.5 into n plus 1. For 28th floor, it will be 3.5 into 20 plus 1, that is 21. So it is coming out to be 73.5 meters. You can see 73.5 meters. So I have taken this data from the Indian Meteorological Department as per the report published yesterday during the storm. So in some parts of the Delhi, like you can see Pragati Maidan, the wind speed or the wind velocity is 60 kilometers per hour, and it has went up to 84 kilometers per hour in places like Uzwa in Delhi NCR. So if I take the maximum wind velocity 84 kilometers per hour, so if I say I am taking it as a reference only. So the equation is V2 is equal to V1 H2 by H1 raised to power alpha. You can see on the screen. So here V1 is 84. H2 is the height at which we need to calculate the wind velocity. So it is basically that same we calculated 3.5 into 21, 73.5. And H1, let's say it's, let me assume that 84 is at 10 meters only. So if I use this particular equation now, so we will get, so the wind velocity is approximately coming out to be equals to 111.69. 111.69 kilometers. That is roughly, you can see that 1.33 times of the 84 kilometer per hour. So you can see, matlab storm ke time velocity reported was 84, but for a 28th floor building, the wind velocity at 28th floor is roughly 1.33 times, that is 111.69 kilometers per hour. तो भाई फिर तो ये जेन्युइन है कि उस फ्लोर पे अगर विंड फैक्टर को कंसिडर करके वो बिल्डिंग डिजाइन नहीं की होगी, तो एट दैट पर्टिकुलर फ्लोर लेवल द विंड इम्पैक्ट विल बी क्वाइट सिग्निफिकेंट, एंड so at that particular height the building will actually shake. और कोई भी अगर उस बिल्डिंग में रह रहा होगा, he will actually feel like yes, it's earthquake which is causing the building, my floor to shake, but it is not actually earthquake, it is actually the wind load. So यहाँ पे पता चलता है कि कितना important है to consider wind load while designing a particular building to prevent the lateral sway of the buildings itself. Let me take an example. So say this is the building, okay, so this is the building, and say this is the height at which we are interested to calculate the lateral sway, lateral deflection. So this angle is say 45 degree. So if this height, this one is 10 meters, so this horizontal displacement will be how much? Tan 45 is equal to, it's simply perpendicular upon base. So if this height is 10 meters, so this horizontal displacement will also be 10 meter. But say if this height is 20 meter, then tan 45 is equal to this horizontal displacement at this level divided by total height. So it will be x by 20 equals to 1. So that deflection will be 20 meters, twice of that. So you can see that how impactful it is with the increasing height. So moving ahead, so if I classify now based upon the data given by Indian Meteorological Department for the classification of the wind velocity depending upon its severity conditions. So we are having certain categories or certain classes as well. You can see on the screen itself. So you can see on the screen itself, we are having several categories like low pressure, depression, deep depression, cyclonic storm, severe cyclonic storm and super cyclonic. Depending upon the wind velocity, मतलब wind velocity का range क्या है उसके basis पे ये categories हैं. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 categories are there. So if the wind velocity is less than 31 kilometers per hour, then that is basically classified under low pressure. And what's its impact? It will not be considered severe anymore. It's just likely to cause significant damage, and we can say it's a pleasant one. If we go further ahead, if the wind velocity is lying between 31 to 49 km per hour, then it will be categorized in the depression category, and they can cause localized damage. It can vary from location to location. They can, cause the trees to get downed, or there can be some kind of power shortage, or the power cables might got to fall from that particular height. If we further move, 49 to 61 is deep depression. They can cause significant structural damages as well. If we further move, cyclonic storm, that is what we are interested in, 61 to 88 km per hour, which is actually the wind velocity yesterday that struck Delhi NCR. So here you can see that if we study the impact of that cyclonic storm, now you can see that they are capable of causing significant structural damages and even disruption of essential services, and this is what actually happened in Delhi yesterday. And one more news was there, one of the site I read that a wall collapsed and a man died in that particular collapse itself. So it was such a massive storm, deadly storm was there in, yesterday in Delhi itself, and it caused a huge damage, I think, at some localized level. And so to study the effect of wind velocity over the increasing height of a building, let me give you a quick demonstration by taking two prototypes of a building. So these are the two prototypes of the building. So you can see the smaller one which is having a height say 10 meters and the taller one which is having a height say 20 meters. So I'll apply the wind, or I can say that I'll blow by my mouth only, and see what is the impact on the lateral displacement of the smaller building as compared to the taller building, and the vice versa. So let's do that. So let me apply some kind of pressure by my mouth only over this particular building which is having shorter height. So let's see. So you can see the sway is comparatively is there, but actually I'm applying a force over a kind of, you can say that, paper building. So the sway is comparatively appearing here, but that is actually very less. Let's try it with the another, that is a taller building. So here comes our taller building. This one is our taller building. So let's apply the sway in this particular case, but this I need to stand. So let's see. So it's well clear from this particular demonstration that the impact of wind velocity, you can see in the video that I have used to compare the two situations, it's more on the taller building, that is this one, the 20 meter, and it is less on the 10 meter building. So this is what I want you to know about the impact of wind velocity over the increasing height of the building. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more fascinating videos, and bye bye.